Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish. They're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam! Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Gilbert, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Round. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, and I'm joined, as always, by Cassisi Harris.
Hey.
And David Rios.
How's it going?
And we are That Silverline Show on Tuesday. We will be talking about the essential skills for surviving Comic-Con as a creator. So this will be your boothing skills, your panel skills, if you're attending as a hallway or floor cosplayer, or if you're just attending as a participant and don't want to get trampled by the crowd or sponsored by BO. Different skills involved there. So first of all, I'll open up the floor here and ask everyone, what has been your experience with cons so far? Working them, attending them, any, all?
Again, worked the booth to sell pops one time at a Funko booth, but other than that, I've been more of a consumer and spectator than I have working the booth yet. Hopefully in the future that can change.
Sure.
I've been mostly also a spectator. I've done a few things independently, smaller booths or smaller shows. Actually more like signings and stuff like that. But have lots of fun experience with actually going and being in the larger conventions. But yeah.
Sure. My experience, I have worked the booth both as a retailer for a different comic publisher, so not selling my own stuff, but selling stuff from Mad Cave. Selling my own stuff on a separate booth. I've also presented at panels, and I've also been a cosplayer. I still am. Cosplaying is what I do mostly now because boothing is expensive, and at this point, it almost are not worth it as a writer. But that's a industry topic for a different day. But yeah, so I've been going for a little bit here in Afghan. I've done the full gamut, I'd say. Now kind of find my niche cosplaying and paneling. So I'll be glad to offer my expertise, but also to grab perspectives from people who have not done as much, or perhaps field questions from the consumer side of things on what you observe when you go up to a table. So this will be kind of another general topic because this is going to be a con survival skill, both as an attendee as well as a creator. And this is your preparation, so general preparation. Everyone has their own con go bag or kit that they have to bring, or stuff you have to bring. Either, if it's something local, it's going to be probably packing a little lighter than if you're attending a hotel. But I guess since everyone has attended a con, or and somebody worked at con in some aspect, what are your go-to items or things that you need to bring when you're attending the convention? I don't know if Caicedo, you've done anything out of state, or if everything that you've done has been in your area. I've done stuff that I've had to do hotel stays for, do flights for, and then also stuff that I can just drive back and forth from. So I'll give a little bit of everything. So what is your con preparation items? What is in your kit?
So again, I've only worked a booth selling pops, but the booths that attract me when I walk around, I would assume that those people packed their visuals for the booth itself. So, whether you have a tablecloth, whether you have the big picture visuals in the back to kind of draw me in, if you have any kind of stands to display your stuff toward the approaching audience, like I'd imagine all those things you've packed, right, or had shipped there so that you can get it when you get there. In the case of like the bigger tables. Beyond that, as far as physical stuff to pack, I mean, your personal stuff, obviously, and your product, but as far as paired stuff, that's a little different. I think, I have comments on, the approach and the pitch and all that stuff that draws me into, but.
Okay. Well, it's going to be just stuff to bring like as an attendee, because I know something that I think needs to be in everyone's con kit is travel deodorant. Let's be honest, all right? We know who we are.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
If you're boothing, especially for cosplaying, oh my god, the cosplays get so hot. But or if you are, just walking the aisles, attending panels, shopping in Artist Alley, meet and greeting, you're doing a lot of walking, moving about, all right? If we smell any of you, we've smelled too much of you. So pack your travel deodorant.
Okay. I can honestly say that I usually try to shower every day, but I have been on the other end of that, where maybe it would have been a good idea to carry a brand new fresh stick and hand to somebody, but I thought that might be a little bit rude, so I wouldn't really go there. But yeah, I've run into some cases where probably the other person that somebody that I was walking down the aisles with maybe should have had something like that.
Yeah.
And I can understand the cosplay, particularly the ones that are just these really multi-layer outfits. It can definitely, looks like it can get really hot in there. So yeah, I could see that.
So David, you have you've attended cons this year, as recently as this year. So as an attendee, what are some of your go-to items to bring when you go to con? What are some things that you have to have on you when you're going to like San Diego Comic Con or something like that? Or things back in your RV even.
Yeah, we've done that. We do that a lot. Take a travel trailer and stay the night there and drive in. I always try to keep a fairly large empty backpack. I know a lot of the cons have like San Diego. They give you an actually really huge bag, which is nice. But the problem is they're not the most sturdy. Straps tend to break, depending on how much you do. So if you have a pretty strong large backpack, you start the day empty, and you usually find by the end of the day it's quite full. So that's a good start. Typically, we went and got from Costco a small chair that kind of looks like a tent with the elastic straps and stuff. So we go through and we walk for a while, and then we take a break. We either go up and eat some food, or go through and take a break in the towards the afternoon, something like that, just to get off your feet. And it's nice to have something that you can quickly tear apart, and it's usually in a bag like this big or so, this big around, and we usually carabine it to the bottom of our backpack. So it's not really something we have, because if found anything that you carry in your hands, you have the tendency to leave behind somewhere.
Right.
Or cut off circulation.
I had one con when I was in college. I had taken it was a McFarlane Wolverine cover, and we were playing around with doing the masking and all that stuff. So I had gone through and I masked that, and I was walking around with the con with it, and then at some point I set it down and I never saw it again. So that's why I try and keep something, throw in the bag, also tend to bring food, sandwiches, something easy to pack, some snacks and stuff like that. Because, every once in a while you want to go through and get, maybe the pretzel or whatever that you see there, but you don't want to rely on all your meals for, with $8 bottles of water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So some snacks, some food, stuff like that. I also, last time I went, I brought my iPad with me. I was talking with some of the artists, like I was talking with David Nakayama, and I was kind of showing him some of the stuff that I did. And it was nice just being able to flip through and show some of the things that I've done over time, some of my X-Men stuff and Marvel Ultraverse stuff. So and just some samples of some things, and any kind of books that you may want to have signed. I was doing a lot of reading and stuff with the Star Wars, the High Republic things, and there was a signing going on, and I actually had one of the books that I was finishing up reading had some people there doing signings, so I brought it in and had it signed as well. Picked up some new stuff, but again, the backpack's for throwing things in. So yeah, those are kind of some of my go-to stuff.
Definitely.
And a tube, if you're gonna buy art, you should carry a tube.
Yes. When I bought this, I was super disappointed I didn't have a tube on me, actually. So I had to be do the full flat hand carry, great ginger with it, take it back to the hotel.
Yeah.
Well, we do. Typically, what I found is on the larger conventions, somewhere around there is somebody giving away something in a tube. But pretty much every day we can easily find a tube. Some of these smaller prints and all that we get, we may get the top loaders and slide those in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we usually find on the larger ones tubes. But if you're talking a smaller one, then yeah, that'd be definitely a good thing to bring.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a fan of packing some sort of travel journal or something like that, just in case, especially if you're a cosplayer, this is going to happen. Especially if you're paneling, bring a large container of water. As much as the con will allow some spaces to have limits on the size of liquids. Thank the Patriot Act. But bring as much water as you're allowed to get away with, because if you're doing any sort of public speaking panel, you're gonna especially if you're an anxious person, your mouth's gonna start drying up. But con rooms are not known for their comfortability. Their humidity control is not present. So talking for any period of time, especially trying to bolster your voice, you're gonna want to hydrate, and the $8 bottles of water are not going to cut it. Snacks for her hotel room. David said bring food. If you're staying at a hotel room, or you may not be able to maintain a full meal there, like bring your own sandwiches and stuff. At least have sort of her snackage going on. And get your room information for any sort of food delivery apps and have that saved. You never know how much of a power move it is to order Denny's at 1 a.m. to a Hyatt hotel. And the last thing that I recommend is something to if you are someone who is even if you're doing something that exhausts you, sometimes at the end of the night of a con, you're probably going to be wired to some extent, just because especially for sharing with people, you're going to be hyped. So bring something to help you relax, so you can get a decent amount of sleep, because you don't want to be exhausted during the busy days of the con. You don't want to sleep through some of the morning panels, especially if you're presenting at a morning panel. So get something to help you get knocked out early on.
That one we never seem to have a problem with. A lot of times we would be getting up and in line early. We would be leaving at 5 a.m. or whatever to get there, and because typically, because we were dealing with a trailer and stuff, we would have pack up, leave there, go into when we went to San Diego, we would hop on the tram and all that stuff added a whole bunch of time. So the last thing you want to do is be arriving after everybody else is in and all that stuff. So by the time that we left, sometimes it could be 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and you've been up since 5, and this is your third or fourth day of doing that. And you're just face plant, ready to go.
I think it doesn't help that I'm just a naturally anxious person, so I having some sort of aperitif or something to help knock me out the night, definitely recommend. So now I kind of get to what Casey mentioned, which is a preparation if you're tabling. So things to prepare if you're tabling. Having someone who, thankfully in both cases, most of my tables been presented or put together for me, but shoot. I had a prop here I could have brought in. I have the standee for Peter Clinton. I'm still holding on to Peter Clinton's standee.
Nice.
But yeah, bare minimum has some sort of table dressing, because it just helps it make it look more professional than just having the basic con table. It also helps you stand out a little bit more, even something a little bit of personality there. But yeah, having some sort of standee or backdrop, people are going to shop with their eyes first, so they need to have something to catch their eye. especially if you're a writer, because you're not going to be able to offer illustrations or something at the moment, you need to have a standee with covers or with panel art or something just to show off your book that you're selling. If you're an artist, get some of those smaller table stands to show off prints or finished commissions to draw people in. Table stock is interesting because you don't want to overbuy table stock. Otherwise, you end up making it impossible to break even. Underbuying, then you run into the shipping and sell off. So research the size of your convention and the cost of your table, and try and work in some law of averages there. Like if for every 10 people, you might sell one book. How many times do you need to see 10 people, and how likely are you to see 10 people, given how big the convention was last year? So do some math and try to get an idea of getting just enough table stock to cover the cost for table and ideally make some sort of profit. If you do make any profit at all, if you're doing commissions, you're more likely to make profit. If you're a writer or if you're just selling your book, aim to cover the cost of your table and hope that they buy stuff online later. Unfortunately, con tables are getting spendier and doesn't seem to be slowing down.
It's weird if you don't have your table dressed. As a consumer, I almost default to you've either sold out of everything or you're packing up and you're not really trying to sell without even ever engaging that table. So my brain automatically goes, oh, they must not want me to approach the table if they don't have any dressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the hard things that I run, that I see, and I see a lot of people doing it, is, you may be, unless you're one of the people that has lines of people waiting for you. Use your average, your average artist, reseller, or whatever. You have a lot of time where people come in, and you talk with them, but you have a lot of free time that, people may be walking by, people may be, looking the other direction or whatever. And I see one of the big things that I see, and I understand why people do it, because it's hard to be on 100% of the time. But when you walk by a booth and you see them on their phone like this the whole time, you just kind of go, is it are you really that interested? It's hard to it's hard to do. I get it, it's hard to be on all that time, but that does say a lot of things for people, oh, okay, well, they're doing whatever, I'm just gonna focus over here, and makes it harder. I've seen a lot of people that are, either just highly involved in their phones, or they're gotten up and walked away. But I've seen a lot of people that have people with them, like they're able to bring a guest badge, and that person is fielding questions or anything, like if they have to go to a panel or something like that while they're gone. Here's this. Try to have somebody with you that can kind of boost your excitement up and make people go, oh, here's the they'll be back. I want to come back. He's so and so is busy right now, but I want to come back and actually talk with this person. So
definitely, yeah. If you're an artist, you need to be. If you don't have a guest at your table to kind of bounce off of you, if you're an artist, you need to be sketching or doing something. One, helps keep you busy, but also if people see you sketching, it's very likely you're going to have someone come up and ask to see what you're drawing, or ask you to for a commission at that moment if they like what they're seeing. If you can bring a guest along like that, it's great because you get this. It's essentially a free hand to help you sell your product at your table. But if you can get someone to essentially help you network, because it's easier to bounce group conversations off of. One tactic that I picked up, which I liked really well, was if you're in an alley and you're facing another vendor, if you're having moments where neither of you are occupied, just start talking back and forth. It's going to keep you active and engaged with the space in front of you. But also, you start like BSing and you start having funny conversations, you might draw in some passing consumers. If you have a friend who is into cosplay or doing something and they're doing something, have them come to your table in cosplay. So when someone comes up to ask to take your picture, they can then also then start pitching your product. We definitely did that. We just grabbed some members of the Mighty Nine. They're cosplaying the Mighty Nine critical role. And like, hey, guess what? I can't afford a table for a hot second.
Nice.
If you're a writer, one thing that I like doing, which is kind of fun, is bring a journal and like start writing haikus, or like start writing like weird, funny little poems or whatever. So whenever someone stops by or someone was by, like, hey, take a free poem or whatever, because it gives you something to give away as a writer. Because you're not handing out commissions, but you can give someone something to take from your table, and then it pulls them into your space. So like, oh, this is weird. All right, let's check what's going on over here.
Well, as a writer, you can also, have some things that are like maybe a couple pages, handouts, pamphlets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or even, so you don't have the printing costs and all that, cards that, hey, go here. And you can see a few pages, that way to try and do it. But thing that you had kind of touched upon, the dealing with people that are, across from you, and something that I see very common is a lot of the artists in like Artist Alley. A lot of them tend to see each other at a lot of the cons, and they tend to be right next to each other. So I think that helps build some of the bonds, but a lot of the conversations can lead to fresh ideas and things like that. Or, you may see something that somebody's, got that you hadn't even thought about, and it's like, hey, that's pretty cool. Obviously, you don't want to copy the person and do it, but that may lead to some new ideas and things. And even with writers and stuff, as you start having those conversations, you can bring those type of new ideas and things. So
Can't talk about that. As a writer, like, it's also going to be a very important connection, because in the independent space, if you're not with a publisher, oftentimes it's expected for the writer to pay the artist up front. Unless you can get a artist that you're friendly with, that is able to willing to do a collaboration contract with you, where you kind of agree, like, all right, we finish the book. As a writer, it's like 15, you take 85, whatever that maths out to. And we'll go from there. Being a writer and be able to like talk to someone like, hey, I just wrote this book. I like your art. Do you mind like doing an exchange or something? And like, I'll put my contact info. So if we're ever down to collab, we can, share stuff. You like my writing. And have, don't just go around pitching everyone. Like, what I do that the last day of con. After I've gone around like 2 days, you get to meet everyone, hanging out, spend way too long talking Transformers with some guy in another room and neglecting my own table. Then later going through, and I hang out on books, like, hey, I have this book. Like, you guys want to trade? My contact information is in the back. So just, shoot me a message if you ever want to work together. And usually that ends up working out pretty well as a writer. So that leads into my next thing, which is sometimes as an attendee of a con, you're hoping to break into the comic industry. And while it's not as common as it used to be that you'd have editors doing critiques or reviews or submission exceptions at con floors, occasionally you'll still run into it, or at least you'll run into people who you might want to work with in the future. And you'll need to develop the elevator pitch for yourself as a creator. This ties in with yourself if you're boothing, which is you need an elevator pitch for your product to get people in the door. So kind of if you're at any point along your comic journey, you need to develop your elevator pitch skills. So how do you either pitch yourself concisely and succinctly, or how do you pitch your product? So this is another open floor question. How do you guys go about developing your elevator pitches? Or is it something you're comfortable with? Is it something you're still working on?
I'm still working on it. Definitely, I'm still working on it. You kind of have the format. There's several formats I guess you could get online. But I will say though, as a consumer, if you pitch me at all, I'm likely to listen to you.
Yeah.
A lot of people just don't pitch you at least at the cons I've gone to. Several people do, and I'll stand and I'll even if it's a terrible pitch, I'll listen and then I'll actually look at the product too and see, well, I mean, that was a terrible explanation, but at the same time, am I interested in what I'm seeing? But I will just as easily, you can have a great product, but you don't try and pitch it all and you just kind of sit at the booth and kind of like David said, you're just looking at your phone or writing on a piece of paper and it's not at all trying to engage. I'm less likely, unless something just really catches my eye about it, I'm less likely to view it at all, which is interesting.
Right.
But I am working the pitch, right? And it's to the point where I have to write like 15, 20, 30 just to even remotely think that I'm having a decent pitch at anything. But I think they all suck that I write. So still working that. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you ever really get comfortable? I've never.
The more you do it, at least you'll be comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm not there. I'm not there yet.
I think it's one of the things where it's honestly you get comfortable, you get to a point where you can turn your brain off and go on autopilot.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
You go into a fugue state and just the autopilot take over. You come back afterwards. Yeah, I mean, and like you're saying, like any sort of pitch usually ends up upping your chances of making a sale. It doesn't need to be a whole lot. And oftentimes it's better if it's like if you can make it something relatable and short, like someone knows immediately what they're getting into. And there's like the book that I was selling last time I was working in a booth was Honor and Curse. And so like someone come up like it's a supernatural samurai revenge story. Like perfect. Or when someone's like, did you ever want to like think that's the last time I meets the Italian job? Something like that. And something that I just want to immediately know what's happening with the story, what they're getting into. And also it takes kind of the pressure off you if you have that pre-programmed into your mind. Like you're not trying to be creative every time someone coming in the door. You create a script and you just go from that every time. As far as pitching yourself, that's kind of where it gets interesting because you need to know what you're known for and what you want to be known for. So pitching myself has always been interesting. Especially, it's got me even more interesting after Wolf Hunter because that's so far off everything else I've written. Because up until that point, as a horror writer. My advice was like, I'm a short fiction writer. I've dabbled in comics. Usually write about spaceships, ghosts, or the combination thereof.
Which do you think is harder, to pitch your product or to pitch yourself?
I'd say yourself, because your product, once it's finished, you know what it is, right?
Yeah.
You never know. Ideally, as a creator, you're never your own finished product, so you're always working on yourself. So always developing. So it's kind of figuring out, it's like you may know me from this, but this is what I write the most of. I really like your art. I really like the stuff you published before if you're talking to editor, and so I think my voice fits in there. So I thought I can start a conversation with you. But it's always one of those weird things or especially if you end up just getting put in a room with someone who is definitely not in your genre, And she was like, well, I might as well. It's like, yeah, you publish like kids comics, right? Like, yeah. I was like, well, I normally talk about demons possessing people, but if you ever want to work on something,
We can work it out.
Yeah, we'll make something happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
As a kid in The Shining, we could kind of do something like that.
Yeah, think about, if you think about it, it is just a story about a clown, right?
Yeah.
So we just
Cemetery.
It's a children's story.
Yeah, every good horror story has a kid in it. So really, just the path we need to broach.
That's funny.
But yeah, I always find it much easier to pitch something like Wolf Hunter, like it's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy meets Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Everyone's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, yep, that's what it is. Or saying something like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy meets Murder on the Orient Express, stuff like that. When I was doing The Vessel, I said, it's a Lovecraftian story about a deep sea diver. Finding stuff that shouldn't be there, and for them, they're like, "Oh, that makes sense," kind of immediately. So, but trying to pitch myself after writing something like The Vessel and then writing Wolf Hunter, I'm like, yeah, I wrote about space ghosts, also spies in World War II.
Right. Yeah.
We have a wide breadth we can work from. David, do you have any thoughts on elevator pitches, either self or your art?
It's hard. My problem is I'm not. I have a hard time. I always have this thing about trying to go through and impede people and force myself on them. So that's a very hard thing for me. The other thing is, particularly with the colorist work stuff, is a lot of times, particularly on the old stuff, is you weren't allowed to sign anything. It's very rare. So you're like, oh yeah, I did this. Okay. But you can't find my name anywhere on it. But I did do it. It's really hard to sell yourself and things like that.
Yeah.
If you go on Comic Vine, you'll be like, that's just go on Comic Vine. Credit.
Yeah, it's it's hard to, it's particularly hard to do that being colorist or a computer colorist, I'd say, because a lot of the credit ends up going to, if you have another colorist that did the guides and you're doing the finishing work, obviously anything that comes up is going to be their name, not yours.
Right.
So, yeah, and there's a lot of great colorists that I've worked with that have, I've done the computer finishes for it and then, clean everything up. But there's some great work. So not to discount any of that, because there's amazing people that have, I've worked with, I've worked over in the past. So.
And kind of like that point, something that like you almost have to like teach yourself when you're developing your pitches or developing how to market yourself or market your product is building the idea in your own psyche that you're almost doing someone a favor by pitching yourself to them. Right? The idea is that like if you're pitching yourself to another creator or an editor, like they want to find someone to hire or someone to work with, the same as you. So you're trying to make your job easier by putting yourself out there. If you're talking to a consumer, they're wanting to find something to kill their evening. So like, hey, I got a book here. They'll do that for you.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
So, obviously, like there's a difference between like confidence and arrogance. Like you can't go into it thinking that you're the next hot thing because people are going to see right through that. But knowing that you're going in there trying to provide it value, or you're not trying to leech off them. You're trying to add value to their day.
Yeah.
Whatever that value looks like. So that's an interesting line that you have to cross and develop at the same time as your pitches. Without segue, the next note I have is adaptability and flexibility. So the day that the con goes 100% smoothly is the day that Hell Freeze is over. For some consumers, some cosplayers, some tablers, something always goes wrong. There's only, for me, recently this was Morcon, where I ended up losing my badge Saturday night before all the big nightly events. And I had to wait for it to show up and lost and found. They didn't give us lanyards this year. They gave us like little pins, like so you could to make it easier to hide it in your cosplay, right? I'm like, I didn't want the lanyard. I'm too ADHD for it not to be on a lanyard. I guess also that's it. If you're going to a con that doesn't provide lanyards, bring a lanyard.
Because it's also great if you have anything like, like I was saying before, we do the tram and all that. So, you can keep your tram pass or any other passes that you have in there in addition. So it's always a good idea.
Or something we recently learned to get skills into self-pitching again. Instead of packing around like a pack of business cards or things to send people to your Instagram and your threads now, just go online, create a free QR code that links back to your Instagram or something. Put that on a sheet of paper on the back of your pass. Mm-hmm. So then when someone goes like, "Oh, I like your stuff," I'm like, "Yeah, great, just follow me here."
Yeah.
This is just a life skill, learning how to roll punches and improvise, adapt, overcome. But for a lot of people in the comics industry or in the creative space, you're going to end up improvising real quick in the convention space. For some con goers, this also happens where if scheduling gets mishapped, someone has a health incident, or you need to rearrange your schedule super quick. If you're a cosplayer, something is going to break. That is a law of nature. And tabling, you end up getting a lot of times where especially if you're tabling, collect your product ahead of time. Don't try to have it delivered the week of or have it delivered to the con space. Pick up your table stock much earlier and bring it with you. Because then you have time to quality check and make sure it's all right. You'll have issues where you get it day of and the folds are super creased and faded because the machine broke and they had to hand fold 500 copies. Because then not only do you have poor quality prints, you then also have to apologize to your pissed off printer.
Yeah. That would suck. That would suck so bad.
Yeah. That was fun.
After that random, very specific example. The other thing too is it's always good to it's always good to have everything in advance. So like you said, you have the comfortability and stuff, but you also have you miss out or try to limit the amount of things being delivered, during the con while you're waiting, because one, it tends to be very expensive. And, because, I've heard of some where it's like, oh, you want a package delivered. Okay, well, whatever it is, when it comes in, the hotel charges a $50 fee for basically going, UPS dropped this off. Here you go. For having stuff ahead of time, you're checked in. You know what you've got, how you're going to present it. You don't have those random things where, I got to go back and call my buddy to go in go to my stock and send me X amount more of these and stuff. Then again, you got the flip side of that is you don't want to take, a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to have to carry back as well. So it's a very fine art of trying to negotiate all of those things.
Yeah. And Katie Shaw in the chat brought up some good points. Always be aware of the support offered by your convention space. A lot of cons now are becoming more aware of the problems faced by creators or creators and cosplayers. If you're I think both Rose City and Kimura Con have cosplay doctors on staff. So if it's a quick fix and like it's I think Kimura Con also gets a little more involved, like where they'll be able to help with sewing part of your kit back together or like reattaching something.
I was trying to figure out, cosplay doctors. Is it people that you're like, I need a doctor for this one. This person dressed up as a doctor. Is it somebody that is dealing with heat stroke or something like that, or is this like you mentioned? Is it something that somebody has sewing skills to be able to help you and all that? So it's kind of a wide range. I was just wondering where you were narrowing this down.
Yeah. There was one where I saw somewhere the cosplay doctor was dressed up like the doctor from Team Fortress 2. So just had a sign saying the cosplay Ubermensch.
Oh, wow. And that's a free service from the con? I should say free.
Most of the time, yeah. Most of the time, most of the fixes will be free. Because again, for the con, cosplay can be a big draw for them.
Yeah.
And so they want to make sure that the people who are in cosplay competitions, the people who are doing hall cosplays are as presentable as possible, because then the people who are there to watch the cosplay get the full enjoyment of the con.
That makes sense,
the one I saw actually had someone who did like light foam work, like they did quick setting foam. If something like snapped, they just like reset it. It wouldn't be enough to actually like replace a chunk, but if there's like a clean snap, they would like foam glue it, and you'd hope it wouldn't snap again. It'd be very ginger. And a lot of them will have either some sort of Discord or app now that will, if you're dealing with someone like if one of the members of your group has a disability and need help finding seats, be aware of what channels are available to find like quick help with that. Also always check the con map for where all the different help stations are. If you're a creator, always check your con stock ahead of time. If something does go wrong, that was a decision that was meant to be that way, and you're selling it as is.
I meant that.
Yeah, exactly. These are the limited edition with the faded cover. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't get fulls like that every day.
Exactly. Yeah, no.
So bad.
It's like your Lego figure with the face that's printed off on the side of their head.
Yeah.
That's a misprint. That's worth some money right there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like misprints are worth more money.
Exactly.
Being more things like that. If you're presenting at a panel and the audio doesn't work, get ready to project your voice, and that's why you brought the giant gallon of water that recommended earlier. Toss your voice across the room. If you haven't done like public speaking lessons, imagine you're throwing your voice at the back of the room, you're bouncing it off the wall, and you'll drink the water along the way. Have tea ready when you get back to your hotel room. I think. Yeah, every con I've gone to in the last couple of years, some electric thing has always failed in some room. There's always a panel that goes terribly wrong. So if you're a panelist, be prepared to go without your visual aid, to go without your microphone, for your hall guardian or your event staff to just not be present and you don't know where they are. So you're now also managing the room in addition to presenting.
There you go.
Quick thinking and get ready to take charge of situations that comes. Don't panic. Just go with what you got. thermos of tea, 100% of water. Yes, and 100%. Last couple notes here I have are dealing with utilizing social media when you go to con, and this is something that is very important for creators and cosplayers, but I'd also say also for attendees, either using social media to locate stuff, or if you're trying to enter to the comics industry, using social media to connect with veterans of the industry to work with, or other people in the collaboration space, because chances are, if you want to go to that hashtag, you're going to find other people who are in the same boat with you, but maybe have a different skill set. So I know some of us use social media more than others. But as far as the intersection of social media and convention spaces, either finding stuff, promoting stuff, or what have you, Cassisi, have you use convention apps to like locate booths for panels or track creators?
Yeah, every convention I've gone to, I've downloaded the app, and then I've used that, for several things, specifically for panels, just to understand which panels I want to go to and when.
Yeah,
it's probably the most interaction I have with the app. But yeah, just finding an occasional booth or just getting the layout period on the first day, the app is really good for that. I know they hand out paper maps a lot of times, but the app is just easy.
It's quicker,
Yeah.
I'm also, if there's any creators or artists that I like that I don't forget in the conventions, I'll follow them on Instagram or Threads or whatever. So like whatever they're presenting there, I know exactly where they are. I can check anything else because they're promoting that. David, what are your? Have you used much social media as far as navigating convention spaces go?
I use mostly the apps. I always try to do that and try to plan ahead of time. See what who's speaking, where they're speaking, what panels there are, and that aspect of it. So mostly the app, but a lot of those apps are not available or they don't go live until the show.
Sunday. Yeah.
So some research ahead of time on the websites and stuff like that. So we do that also.
Yeah. I always follow the conventions on Threads now, Instagram. Just keep track of schedule changes, or if they're changing any of their terms or rules, they'll always usually update them there first before we go into the guidebooks. So it's and the off season, it's easier to keep abreast of things by just being active on social media and following important accounts. What I recommend people do, if you have your junk account, but most places now also allow you to create a separate following or separate portfolio of followings where you can be like, this is all the stuff that I need to follow for like rules updates or like to locate or like schedule updates. And so like I'll follow like publishers and conventions on that one, and then all my other like creators and weird meme pages on a separate following tab. As far as being a creator goes, when we kind of discussed how important the con specific apps are. So when the con organizer reaches out to you to collect information for that app, it's really important that you respond quickly and give them your best possible elevator pitch that I talked earlier. Don't add like several paragraphs of description for your table or your panel. No one cares. So really like your name, what you're known for, and what you're talking about. That's one line. Maybe we'll see it. It's just, you don't need to scroll through walls of text. So it's like, oh, it's Cassisi from this book talking about world building. Great.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't overdo it, Cassisi. Keep yourself in check.
No, try not to. It's hard. No, it's joking.
Yeah, exactly. But then also ahead of time, like leading up to the con on your personal social medias. Be advertising that you're going to be at this con. People probably won't see it on the first or even the second post. So like in the days and weeks leading up to it, like, hey, reminder, I'm this con on this day doing this thing, or this weekend selling here. Or if you're doing several cons in a row, each week update your con schedule. Like, I'm at this thing this week, I'm at this thing this week, and have the rest of your year scheduled out below that. If you're cosplaying, use the con formatted tablet. Cons will give out templates to show like what you're cosplaying that entire weekend. And then usually what they'll do is they'll scrub through social media leading up to it, and they'll start sharing those if you're a cosplayer. So be active with that as well. And when you're actually there set up, do another reminder post. Be like, hey, I'm here this weekend. I'm at this location, or I'm going to be at this panel on this room. You're going to feel like you're spamming people's pages with your stuff, but you almost need to make sure that everyone can see it, that it is up to date. And then once you're actually in the convention space and you're networking, even if you're just a attendee trying to network people in the industry, make sure your social media hygiene is good. Have an appealing page and like looks like you're active or somewhat professional. So that way, then when you're trying to network with other creators, it's very easy to follow back and forth without looking like you don't care. So then we can get into the DMs later and start talking about collaboration or submissions down the line. Because again, your social media is going to be like your true first impression. Or someone's going to meet you, think you're great and want to follow you, but then they see your page and they're like, oh, this person doesn't care. This person is weird. This person doesn't promote their work. And it's okay to be weird. Just be weird in the good way, not weird in a weird way. But make sure your social media hygiene is clean, so it's easy to talk about collaboration down the line. Especially since most collaboration conversations are going to happen over direct messages or email now. Rarely ever does anything happen through snail mail at the old days. That's all the notes that I had. So any other thoughts on con survival? Guess he's here, David.
I don't know. I mean, again, social media, you brought up QR codes earlier. I think that's a really good idea, just to have it at your table. Even if you don't have cards. I've asked, hey, how can I follow you? And the person just points down to their QR code. So it was a really thing.
Also, like as a consumer, like if you think about it, like that's one less hurdle for you, because then it's just tap follow. If it's a card, there's a chance you're going to lose it down the line or anything like that. Yeah,
I agree. And then again, tagging cosplayers, they let you take pictures, but just tagging them in the picture is another, really, I thought it was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
It takes free publicity and it just makes it really easy thing to do.
Especially if you're running a booth and you see cosplayers come by that you like, you're like, hey, can I make a picture with you? And I say, great, yeah, sure, whatever. If you take a picture and tag them, they're going to get that notification. So then they're likely to then reshare that and say like, hey, this person from this booth, was cool.
Yeah. But other than that, just have fun, enjoy the moment, even the moments where you have to adapt and overcome. Yeah.
And be present. That's a big thing. And the other thing that I think a lot of people do is, or not a lot of people, that some of the people tend to do is that you probably want to stay away from. I would want to stay away from is, going through and pushing a lot of like political views and stuff like that while you're there. The idea. You're there with an agenda, but your agenda shouldn't be some kind of a big political agenda. Your agenda should be to, further, expand your discussions with people, promote your, if you're a cosplayer, promote, all the different, what you put into it, what you can do, what some, promote yourself, and just kind of focus more on that than a lot of like agendas and stuff like that. And, try to be as positive as can be, and, go forward with that. I've been around some people who obviously didn't want to be there, and, they weren't attempting to hide that or do anything. It's just like, okay. So, you just think about it, you've made a huge investment to be there, or somebody, if you're one of the big highlights and somebody else has made a big investment for you to be there, it's like, there's big investment. So be present and be, involved and make it work.
Yeah. I think kind of go back to the biggest note I gave is remember that it is supposed to be fun. The fact that, we can do this for a weekend and call it work is insane. So, be grateful for the fact that, this is kind of the with all the challenges and the fact that money in comics is actually in t-shirts.
Yeah.
Even with all the weird stuff in it, be grateful for the fact that this is, kind of the life that we fell into.
Could be a lot worse things that you could be doing. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Keisha, same things from Keisha. Say hi, people. Be currently present, and the social media notes. Take a picture of your table showing off your working location, time of booth. Yeah, hashtag the event. Yeah, every post that you make, always hashtag the event or tag the event. Because again, a lot of times the event is. Other people are going to search that hashtag, especially if you're trying to find something else. Getting that visibility in your search. If people are sharing their own posts, like hey, if my friends and start hashtagging it, you're going to start showing up in the recommended because you're also there. And also you're more likely to be shared by the convention center itself or the host itself. So always be tagging and hashtagging whenever you can.
And one of the things that I like is I like some of the creators having fun with the fans that are there. Kind of a good example of that is Timothy Zahn usually has pictures with, the people dressed as Mara Jade or Admiral Thrawn or whatever. Yeah. He seems like he's really enjoying. It's like, hey, I created this and this is out with people and people are enjoying this. Hey, let me get some pictures on that. Or the other people, hey, can I get pictures with this? I don't think I've ever heard of anything with him that, he's been like, no, I don't want to do that, Right. So it seems like he has a lot of fun with it. And I think that's a good thing is, once you, get, more popular and, have your own ideas and stuff, relish in that. That's a lot of work that you did to do that and, enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. This has been that's our show on Tuesday. We will not be back next week. We'll be taking the weekend off for Christmas. But this week still, make sure to check out Wednesday Wham and Silver. Do we have a Silver Sunday this week, or are they off?
I don't know. I know that the Wednesday Wham is on.
Yeah,
I've seen that.
Real quick here. Nope, Google's being weird. I can't see the calendar. Well, check out Wednesday Wham at least, 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And maybe Silver Sunday. If not, they have a rerun. So check that out too. What better way to spend your Christmas Eve than with our reruns? We will be back the week after. And we hope to see you then. I don't have any cons until do I have to go to SoccerCon? Not sure. But I'll be cons for a while. David Cassisi, when's the first con of your next year? If you already know.
I don't know yet. I don't know.
I am booked for just as a fan. I'm still waiting for them to renew my professional thing, but I am booked for WonderCon at the end of
Oh,
March.
nice.
And I am also booked for San Diego again this year. I've booked all days for both cons. So
Nice.
WonderCon is fun. Yeah.
yeah. So we took my last year. We took my stepdaughter with us. The first time she'd ever been. She went there for a day. She had fun. Got to experience the weirdness that my wife and I usually go. But she is also a very, very much comic geek, and that she's 23. She's about to be 24. So, yep, she had some fun.
Nice.
Okay. But yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Hope you all have a great Christmas, or if you celebrate Hanukkah, that you had a great Hanukkah. Ended back on last Friday. And whatever you choose to celebrate, we hope it's great. And we'll see you in the new year. Yeah. So have a good one, everybody, and we'll see you later. Until that time,
Make mine
Silverline.
Make mine Silverline.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and make mine Silverline.